If you're watching this without having seen the show, no, that title is not a joke. Hey everyone, Kuro the Artist here, and welcome back to another Ben 10 Breakdown. This particular episode of the series actually had Ben have 14 children at the age of 15, and it is not done as a joke. Now that we've gotten the weirdness out of the way, it actually is one of my favorite episodes of the whole franchise. Sure, it's the episode where one of his transformations overwhelms him and forces him to reproduce while he's unconscious, but it also has some of the best casual reactions between the main trio and Julie. It seems like a big challenge to write an episode with such a strange premise, but I think they pull it off very nicely, and when you watch it, it really isn't as strange as it sounds in retrospect. Oddly enough, this episode was written by Amy Wolfram, who was responsible for the episode that introduces the road crew, which longtime viewers may know that I'm not a fan of. It's always interesting to see the spectrum of a writer's capabilities, how one person can write an episode like Ben 4 Good Buddy, but also be capable of Save the Last Dance. Same with Eugene Sun, who wrote the Gold Poop episode, but also wrote the Plumber's Helpers episode. This episode also inspired our most recent episode of And Beyond, based on Big Chill's home planet. If you haven't seen it before, please check it out. It's an animated mockumentary following Horus, our original character, who goes throughout the multiverse and explores different planets and realms. We had a lot of guest voice actors for that episode too, so if you have some extra time after this, go check it out.
I'll be there as soon as I can. Sound good?
Hey, don't ask me how to raise your kids. I'm just a messenger.
And if this is your first breakdown and you're curious about how my rating system works, there's a detailed description down below, along with a link to all of my previous breakdowns, but by all means watch this one first. I'm sure you'll still enjoy it. Before we dive into the episode, let's take a look at the last poll. Most people voted for the original look for Albedo being their favorite, which I guess makes sense. I personally like the Omniverse one with a jacket just because he looks slightly more like his own character, but as he initially started out as just a color swapped version of Ben, I think it makes sense that the look that represents his true character most is the one that people go for. So like I said, Save the Last Dance was written by Amy Wolfram and first premiered November 7th, 2008. Gwen invites Kevin to a dance at her fancy school, and Kevin does everything he can to prepare, as it seems to be his field of least expertise. Meanwhile, the Big Chill transformation starts to overwhelm Ben and cause him to do mysterious things when in alien form. Julie tags along and tries to figure things out, only to eventually reveal that Big Chill was actually collecting materials for a nest in order to have children.
The brakes don't work!
It's honestly horrifying. It's a huge cliche in shows and movies to be in a car where brakes don't work to set up some type of conflict for the characters, so I feel like we're pretty desensitized to it, but if you ever actually been in a car where your brakes don't work, that shit's crazy.
Stop screaming!
Why can't I scream?
Greg and Dee are definitely doing these characters' voices. Oh yeah, Ben's bite. I don't think we've seen that since the pilot. Except there it was blue, I'm pretty sure.
That's no joyride.
I think this is the first time we see Big Chill's custom transformation too, because the one we got in Kevin's big score was the placeholder one they used for all of them. Makes sense since this is a Big Chill-centric episode. New starting animation, he curls into a ball. I like the warp wiggle they got on the feet. So unlike Forearms or Spider Monkey, where the bones merge together for 2 or 3 fingers, in Big Chill's the toes actually disintegrate and the remainder ones stretch out. He gets this back third one. Skin fades in. Now this angle always confused me. I thought like Big Chill had some type of things on the side of his head, but it's actually his chest and shoulder blades and all of that, and he's leaning forward like this. Took me a while to see that, but interestingly enough, his skull flexes for a scowl. We zoom in and get Big Chill's eye. Here he is, the main event himself, or herself, itself. You know, depending on who you ask, Big Chill is either a male, a female, or genderless. It ultimately doesn't matter. I personally like to think that Big Chill is genderless just because in order for something to be female, there must be something different enough for female to warrant its own category. Technically, if everyone's female, no one will be. I like that since he doesn't use his hood antenna or whatever to fly, that they just flicker in the wind because they're so light. That was almost instant. Big Chill dives into the water, and before this water can even resolve itself from the splash, he's already flying back out. Yeah, I'd be freaked out too if I saw that. Big Chill's pretty strong. I feel like all the Alien Force aliens have some semblance of super strength, except maybe like Echo, but even Goop, you know, because he can constrict his density. I'll never get tired of Big Chill's folding wing animation. It's one of the most fascinating attributes for Ben's aliens I've seen. But for a brief few frames, we do see his mouth open up when he turns. The first time we saw his mouth open was in the last episode, so at least it's a little less random, because typically his mouth never opens, even when he talks. It's almost horror vibes going on here. Do y'all like Big Chill's mouth when it's more like a vent, or do you like the fact that it can open up like it has a jaw? Let me know in the comments below. So we've seen Kevin's garage quite a few times now, so we know that this isn't it. Maybe he's at Ben's house? Does Ben's house have a garage like that? I mean, yeah, I think so. Alright, so he's at Ben's house. Also explains why Ben's brushing his teeth here. How did he not feel that instantly? That'd be like piercing into my cheek. Kind of reminds me of the scene in The Visitor when Ben transforms back from Upchuck and then burps out like a nut or a screw or something.
Yuck.
Gwen is so passive.
What?
Doesn't even say a word.
You want me to take you to the dance?
This isn't a flyer though, this is like a straight up card. Did she go out and buy this card to invite him, or did the school hand these out? Well, she does go to a fancy prep school, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Pick me up at 7.
What? Wait!
We rarely ever see anything faze Kevin, and of course, this is the one thing that gets to him.
Uh-huh. I found this in my teeth. Uh-huh.
Was that the same that he just did?
Uh-huh. I found this in my teeth. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's the exact same audio clip.
What do you know about girls?
Isn't Kevin always the one giving Ben advice on girls?
When school is having some dance. So take her.
Facts, Ben. Just get straight to the point.
Fancy prep school. Begs me to waltz. What if I use the improper finger fork?
It's just now hitting me, but they're like 15, right? Is this school really expecting like pristine etiquette and all of that for this? Maybe it's because I grew up in a small town, but all of my dances were just, you know, throwing some balloons in the gym and someone playing music off an iPod. And they still charge you to get in.
No such thing as a finger fork. If I was a preppy guy, I'd know stuff like that.
I really like that Kevin's being this openly vulnerable to Ben too. Usually this is something he'd try to play cool or act like it's no big deal, you know, to keep up his image. But he's so comfortable around Ben now that he doesn't mind expressing that he doesn't know something and he's nervous about something and he doesn't know what to do. Really shows you how far they've come.
And I was hoping you could help me. Better run a DVD on dancing.
Run a DVD? DVDs are still around, obviously, but come on, even the internet was around in 2008, Kevin.
Maybe get one about forks. Thanks a lot, really.
Ben gets it though, he's not even that mad. Better soak in this emotionally mature Ben while we still have him. Julie again.
You're early. Something serious?
The last time I used my powers, I had a blackout.
You don't remember anything?
And Julie instantly takes him seriously. She's such a supportive person. I really love the way they animate all of the tennis moves. I talked about it more in my peer pressure breakdown, but it's always so good, especially the way they do the tennis ball.
Easy enough to figure out what you're doing. How about you transform again, and I'll follow you.
And she comes up with a plan too, instantly. Man, where did they go wrong?
I'll keep a record of everything you do.
You see, nowadays she would probably just follow him on her phone or something. Technology advances so fast.
How are you going to keep up?
Let's hope that none of Ben's aliens can outrun a moped. Also, small thing, but I like that there's actually cars in this parking lot. A lot of backgrounds usually just have blank, empty streets, as if nobody else exists in the town but the main characters.
You remember Jet Ray?
From the pier.
Direct reference to peer pressure as well. I used to think that was super cool, seeing him temporarily transform into Jet Ray only to be forcibly transformed into Big Chill.
Chill.
Although, even though the necrophrygian instincts are kicking in, he still shouts his name Big Chill. Makes you wonder how much of Ben's consciousness is still in there, because he claims to black out, but it's not like an entire personality is overwhelming Ben, like Zaskare, for example. This is just the instincts of the alien, which kind of manifests as a personality. I don't know, who really gives a shit?
Big Chill.
We got Burger Boy here. Usually animated shows limit themselves to one named eating establishment franchise per show. But we just had Burger Shack last episode, and now we got Burger Boy. Bellwood's got some competing businesses. This one seems to be modeled after Sonic though, where you can pull up and order and never leave your car. This thing is an obvious parody of something. What was it? It was like in Austin Powers. Big Boy. Oh, look at that. His antenna, instead of forming his wings, they fold backwards into these little stripes here. And I guess his hood just pops out of nowhere.
Followed Big Chill to Burger Shack.
See, if this was a pure instinctual necrophagian, I'm not sure it would know to try to order the food by pressing this button. So I feel like there's a version of Ben's consciousness still there, because it's still doing relatively human things.
Appears to be hungry. Yes, you
He didn't order anything, or she's probably coming to another customer. Her outfit kind of looks like UA Gwen's outfit though. Jeez, look at that. I guess you can add malleable jaw to his list of powers. He did that pretty instantly too. Those sounds that D does for Big Chill eating, you can slightly hear some wild mud in there. And of course he can still speak as well. It's like the Omnitrix temporarily created this personality based off a section of Ben's consciousness, even though Ben himself doesn't remember any of these. Now this happens a lot in animation, where something will get frozen and thus it can easily crumble. Maybe I just don't understand the physics of that enough, but I can't imagine that actually happening. In fact, it seems like things would be more sturdy with a layer of ice protecting it. I know metal rusts and whatnot, but does it do it that instantly? I guess you could chalk that up to part of Big Chill's abilities. Call me crazy, but I can't help but feel there's some warping done here. And this wasn't drawn this way? Maybe I'm wrong, but this does not seem drawn somehow. Second episode in a row where we've seen Big Chill burp.
Phew, chili fries.
Oh, look at that. He can't outrun a moped.
Big Chill! Ben!
I like that she tries both names, because she's not even sure who she's talking to. Just like the audience, we're not really sure who we're watching here. See, like, this background is completely barren and empty, and not too much detail compared to this one in like the first shot of the episode. There's more line work and actual cars and stuff. Look at this stop sign. Y'all ever seen a white stop sign like this? I'm pretty sure there's a law that they have to be red or something. This is a very Spider-Man Daredevil looking area.
Great.
Look how tiny this car is compared to the rest of the road. And now we're at the desert outside of Bellwood. It's alright, Ben. I hoard a lot of strange things too.
Score!
Oh, hell yeah. God damn, that makes me want a pickle. Well, I don't have any pickles, but I got some scallions. It's not the same. Still good though.
Yeah!
Ben's like, why are you still at my house?
You want a pickle?
Will you forget about the pickle?
This is a nice little background for Ben's kitchen.
Oh man, where's Julie?
Who cares?
I got nothing to wear to the dance.
Oh my god, Kevin. Gotta love that 16-year-old irrationality. Man, look at all these outfits we'll never see Ben wear. I didn't think he was capable of owning something with another number.
It's one of Grandpa Max's tuxes from when he was younger. You're the same size.
He's right. When we see younger Max, he does kind of resemble Kevin. Something about Ben's proportion in relation to Kevin right here is a little off, though. Looking pretty snazzy there. Second jar. I like that we see some golf clubs back here because we do see them frequent the golf course. Also, they'll probably never use this background music again, so I wonder if it was purchased or if they really did score this scene.
Aren't these things supposed to come with clips?
Not if you're older than 12.
Or if you do theater, those clip-on and off ties really help with costume changes.
It just takes practice.
I'm not like all those prepped guys.
Which is why she wants to go to the dance with you.
Gwen likes them bad boys.
Don't you look dapper?
Man, I'm loving this. You know, it's not the fact that he's drinking the pickle juice. I'm sure everybody does that. But it's how fast he's devouring all of these pickles. Like, God. It's probably supposed to be an allusion to, like, pregnancy cravings since, you know, Ben is well, not pregnant in this episode. Or, I don't know. Is he? Like, what happens to the Big Chill eggs inside of him when he turns back to human?
I wonder if we've got any more of these.
Third jar?
Gwen likes yellow roses. Get her a nice corsage.
You can tell this background right here was just plopped into this door frame. Kevin's really feeling himself right now. It's really sweet to see Kevin so happy.
What's a corsage?
A corsage is a spray of flowers worn pinned to a woman's clothes, usually worn on the wrist, aka spending a lot of money to make things absolutely difficult for your date to reach around the whole night without ruining the flower. But you know, they're great for photos. But I feel like typically once women get to a dance, the first thing that comes off is their heels, and then the corsage. That's a nice clock. In fact, this whole atmosphere, too. Is this the park?
What's up?
It's nice to see Julie and Gwen together too. We're getting a lot of Ben on Kevin time, but you know, they're also doing their own thing. Love how beautiful these cars look too. Definitely a step up from the background cars when Chroma Stone fought Cash in the Gauntlet.
You seen Ben? He turned into Big Chill then disappeared.
Yeah, he does that sometimes. Just part of being an alien.
What a response.
I guess so.
I know so. I'm more worried about Kevin not showing up tonight.
Gwen talks through Julie's problems before assessing her own, instead of Kevin who just mulls over everything Ben's saying. These two know how to handle a conversation.
Hi, Ben.
How the hell did Ben know to come here?
I was so worried.
I'm a little worried too. What happened?
Just out of curiosity. Oh wow, that is awesome. See, I knew they reused the background, but they do keep Julie at a consistent height between the two scenes. That would be a perfect opportunity to screw with the scaling, but they're on top of their shit this episode.
You transformed into Big Chill.
I programmed Jet Ray.
Programmed Jet Ray. Normally he says something like dialed up or even just picked. That's how you can tell this is a guest writer.
You exclaimed Big Chill.
Love that she wrote that down.
632, 8 drive installs. 635, 8 giant metal burger. 636, 8 giant metal statue. 8 giant metal burger. 638, 8 a bus. 641, 8 a car wash sign. 642, 8 a car wash. 643.
Wow, you take great notes. No wonder you get straight A's.
Facts. Good note taking is extremely important in anything in life, not just school.
I just remember waking up in a ditch.
Well, you were next to the ditch, but same thing.
I had a problem with one of my aliens a few years ago. Can't believe this is happening again.
I love this too, because not only is Alien Force not afraid to directly reference other episodes, but it's not afraid to directly reference the classic series either. I feel like Ultimate Alien and Omniverse each feel like their own thing, but at least in the first two seasons, Alien Force really does feel like a direct continuation from classic.
Get Kevin and Gwen.
They're too busy with the dance. I'm on my own.
You've got me.
So that's great for Ben, because he understands Gwen and Kevin are too busy for his problems, and he doesn't take offense to that, because everybody has their own individual complicated lives. And Julie recognizes that Ben feels alone and is still there for him. This shit sounds so simple, but like if you follow the series all the way till the end, it's really surprising to see these characters act so three-dimensional. I don't mean to dog on the other two series, but this is very much what I prefer for the portrayals of the characters, so I just want to highlight it while we can.
You're not alone.
And the moment is played so tender too. No weird sound effects or quirky background music. Like, this is played straight. Allows you to actually give a shit and not just recognize what's happening, but feel something. But look at this. It's like he's getting possessed, and in human form too. So first Big Chill takes control when Ben's already Big Chill. Then he takes control of Jet Ray to turn him into Big Chill. Now he's taking control of Ben himself, forcing him to turn into Big Chill. Such a great shot of the Omnitrix too. If only he activated it using the buttons. Chill. Still shouting Big Chill though. Monongahela Foundry. See, look at that. I could pronounce things. His cheeks are drawn so angular in this episode. Usually it's kind of roundish.
Stay out of my way.
See, he still doesn't need to open his mouth to do his ice breath though. You know, I know it's due to censorship, but I actually like that the cops have laser guns, because aliens have been pretty public knowledge in the Ben 10 world for the past 5 years, so it would make sense that police would start arming themselves with something better than just bullets.
Ugh, should have brought some gum.
You should have brushed your teeth before you left, man. That's like step number 1. Just for the sake of diversifying this outfit, I would have done something different with Gwen's hair too. Man's even got the corsage.
It's a corsage.
He's so proud of himself.
It's beautiful. Thank you, Kevin.
See, this is an actually well-drawn flower, at least comparatively to the transmogrification of Eunice. I'm getting way ahead of myself here, but I always felt like it was super goofy how the ending scene of that has been so mesmerized by the beauty of a flower, and it literally just looks like stereotypical clip art.
What did she give you?
Something beautiful.
It's almost like a fridge magnet. You can actually see the laser bullets pass through Big Chill in a little ripple as he walks forward. So obviously they can have their limbs freeze off, which kind of sucks, but he didn't freeze their heads, allowing them to breathe. And also at the burger place, he told the guy to scram instead of attacking him. So it seems like Big Chill's trying to be as little confrontational as he can and doesn't want to actually attack anyone. Although Big Chill probably doesn't know how human biology works, because this is still going to screw them up somehow. Their skin's probably going to peel off trying to get this ice off of it. This scene was pretty metal. Now his mouth is back to being a vent again. So Big Chill is impervious to both extreme hot and extreme cold, so he's all around immune to extreme temperatures.
Stay away.
See, he used just enough ice to break Julie's scooter, so it's like Ben subconsciously knows not to harm her, because he could have just froze her like he did the officers. Back to the wasteland. That's a ton of lava. How does he store all of that inside of him? I was just about to make a comment how this car is riding Kevin's ass, but then he honks and speeds past him. It's a subtle way of showing how nervous Kevin is about tonight.
Yellow roses. How did you know?
Actually, Ben told me.
He owns up to it too. Kevin's a really good guy in this episode. It doesn't even seem that out of character though. It's like they've done enough bonding with him where I feel like he's earned this.
Ben gave you dating tips and helped you tie your tie.
Alright, she's saying it like it's out of character for Ben. But whether or not Big Chill takes over Ben to do the whole egg nest thing, it's not like Big Chill possessing Ben would automatically give him the knowledge to tie a tie. Like, he had to have already known. Now this is pretty good. They got the CG car, but they also have the headlights reflecting against the ground, and it's in the perfect perspective.
Let's dance.
She's like, I'm not having that voice you just did.
We can't go in there.
But I learned the proper fork.
Is this fork thing all in Kevin's head, or is Gwen's school really like gonna be using these fancy ass forks?
You're embarrassed to go with me.
No!
Big Chill's on a rampage.
Mile west of Register Road, just north of Wixel Avenue.
A reference to Sam Register and Tram Wigzel, who worked on Ben 10. This is the second reference to Tram Wigzel, though, as the Wigzillian org beasts were also named after him. Actually, third reference, because wasn't JT modeled after Tram, too? This man gets around in the Easter egg business.
Just up ahead.
We had a problem with one of the aliens going rogue. It was Ghost Freak.
The way Gwen and Kevin speak about Zaskare is as if from Hordorium to eternity never happened. There's a lot of theories that that flashback episode takes place in an alternate continuity, but that's something you just gotta accept happened somehow, and that's just how it is.
Maybe there's some connection. These ghost personalities are just plain evil.
I like that they make this connection directly in the episode too, because I'm sure we were all thinking this when this originally aired, but it's like they picked Big Chill and then added this line specifically to throw people off with the twist at the end.
Go away!
To smack some sense back into him.
It's rare we see Kevin coated in armor in something that's not his regular clothes. This is neat to see the metal tuxedo.
Hey!
Bad idea to turn into metal. I love the little bits of snow mixed in with his breath. Also, Gwen's outfit doesn't have that split that it had when we first saw it. Look at this like spherical blur for Big Chill's POV.
Stay away from there!
You can hear the concern in Big Chill's voice. He breaks right out, doesn't even go intangible. Big Chill's unstoppable in this episode. This is super cool. I love 3D spins and animation. They're really hard to pull off, but this one looks pretty great. Especially with the balls being static in the air too, they have to maintain that perspective as well. Now this is a fantastic animation. It doesn't just morph out of the ball, it like grows eyes and uncurls and gets the wings. Oh, it's so adorable. It's neat that these three are all animated differently too, because they fly off in different perspectives. They easily could have just reused the same animation 3 times. I probably would have. And then the little tiny one too. Oh man, I love it. He doesn't want to leave. There's like a really good and pretty popular fan art of Big Chill holding his baby Chill right here. Yeah, this one here, I feel like a lot of people have come across this by now. It's by Zeagle OSR 1113. I'll throw a link to their DeviantArt down in the description.
Go on.
I love that little moment for Big Chill too. It makes you more interested in the consciousness that exists in this transformation.
That was weird.
And now it's gone forever.
What just happened?
Although this time, strangely, he didn't just immediately pass out.
Those are your kids.
What did they record this with? This thing? Maybe it's part of Kevin's car.
According to this, lays eggs only once every 80 years or so. They feed on solar plasma. Doubt you'll ever see them again.
Which is a little upsetting. Like I said earlier, if you want to see at least what our interpretation of what Ben's relationship with his kids would be like in the future, check out our And Beyond episode linked below. I'm super proud of its result, and Ash did a ton of fantastic work on it.
I think you made a great mommy.
Aww.
We missed the dance.
I love this scene. This is played so straightforward too. I really appreciate that. And it's such a strange but romantic atmosphere. Bravo, Ben 10. And now the Tennyson family expands even more. Not that they were ever strangers to having aliens in their family with a whole sludge puppy wedding. I'm gonna start this off by giving this episode a solid 5. It takes a pretty standard premise, but it does it so flawlessly. I really like this unique turn on the unexpected character becoming pregnant. You know, normally that trope done in animation is played for laughs or done for comedy, and there are bits and pieces of jokes here and there, but I feel like it's really challenging to play that narrative off seriously. But not only did they do that, They gave it a special Ben 10 flavored twist. It even expands the lore on one of Ben's aliens in a way. And the plot line with the dance also gives Kevin a chance to be more vulnerable and see a different side of him. And while we do see Gwen's side of this situation, it is primarily focused on Kevin overcoming his fear of having to be a real normal person in front of the public. Because he's been an outsider his whole life, he's rarely even been on Earth the past 5 years, nonetheless gone to school, hung out with people, and done a whole bunch of normal teenage things. And especially with Gwen and Kevin's relationship being a very big focal point between the two characters and the rest of the franchise, I think an episode like this is much needed in order to show that they genuinely do have chemistry and they're not just hooking up the main characters because boy, girl, therefore relationship. Which I'll admit, it does feel like that at times too. Hell, I made a whole breakdown based around that. But it's scenes like this that do strengthen the argument that they are genuinely a good couple. As for the Big Chill plot, I feel like they give us just enough information to understand what's happening by the end, because it would be so easy to play up the whole mystery of what's going on with Big Chill, then giving us the random, oh, he was pregnant ending, and just leaving it at that. I feel like it was explained enough for us to accept it, but also not over-explained where it seems like they're trying to compensate so hard for this to make sense. It's just enough explanation. And before we get the explanation, the mystery and the suspense building on what's happening to Big Chill is done in a very interesting way as well, especially playing off the whole Ghost Freak arc in the classic series, which they directly bring up in here. I just think this episode had fantastic execution. A 5 is very much rewarded. And on top of that, I'll give it another 5 for characterization. Like I said, it's very good for Gwen and Kevin's relationship, but also Ben and Julie. With how their relationship terribly falls apart in Ultimate Alien Forward, it's easy to forget that they were actually a good couple at one point. In fact, we get to play around with all the different dynamics in this episode at least once. We have a great example on why Ben and Julie are a fantastic couple. We see Ben and Kevin bond together outside of heroics and just genuinely as good friends. Like, we don't have to keep earning the fact that they're friends now. We've just accepted it and now we're from here forward. Gwen and Kevin's relationship strengthens even more. I've already touched on that. And then we even get that one scene with Gwen and Julie, which is very short and you can argue it's inconsequential, but I like that it's there just to give more depth between the relationship of the characters. I feel like there's enough there where you can kind of see how these two are also good friends. The only thing we really don't get is Ben and Gwen, but we get so much of that we could do without it. But all of the interactions in this episode are fantastic. Even when Ben is in human form being affected by the pregnancy symptoms, he still feels like Ben. Visuals, I'm only gonna give it a 3 though. I loved the backgrounds in this episode, and I really loved the whole ending scene. But aside from that, there's not a lot visually happening in this episode. Like, it looked great and it was drawn pretty well, but as much as the plot and characterization were fantastic, the visuals didn't have a lot going for it. But the designs for the baby chills, flawless. I wouldn't change a single thing about them. Importance, that's where it's gonna take a strong hit. Now, a case could be made for it even getting a 0, because as much as this strengthens everyone's relationship, in the grand scheme of everything, you really don't need this. It helps you believe everybody's relationships more, but you can kind of do without it. But I'm at least going to give it a 1 because it's the infamous Ben gets pregnant episode. It's just so strange. I feel like if you're on a binge and you have a couple of slots for, you know, some extra filler episodes, this should definitely be on the list. And entertaining, I'll give it a 3. I have a huge appreciation for this episode. It might even be in my top 10 episodes of all time. But in the grander spectrum of the fandom, aside from the simple fact that yes, Big Chill has babies in this episode, it really doesn't receive as much praise as some of the other ones, and I'll admit the rewatchability for many might not be as much as it would be for me, so I can see how generally it would only be a 3 in entertaining. That leaves this episode off with a 17 out of 25, although it's a 25 out of 25 in my heart. Now let's wrap things up. So I remembered when I first saw this, I was actually a little irked when I looked at things from Kevin's perspective, who spent the whole episode getting prepared for something that never came to fruition. I've had a lot of experiences like that in my life, so I sympathize with that frustration, but at the end of the day, what are you gonna do? That's just how it is. And Kevin and Gwen had a nice night in the end anyways. But it's also a bit tragic to think that Ben never actually meets his kids. They're long flying off into the atmosphere when Ben transforms back, so not only was he not aware of all of these events, he never even got to see the result of them. Which is why I bring up this poll. Do you think Big Chill's kids should have returned? Let me know what you think in the community tab when this video goes live. I hope you're having a great week so far, and as always, keep it fizzy.